So I'm the co-founder and CEO of my own startup, Picosat Systems, and we build small satellites. And my job is to build solutions for customers to solve the problems that customers have using our technology. So the talk it's a very general talk. It was about space and the fact that there's a lot of different areas that you can work in within space, and it's not just about rocket science and building rockets. So there's a phrase, it's not rocket science, which talks about things being not that hard. I've modified that a bit to say it's not only rocket science. So space is not just about building rockets, it's a whole range of things. Technology is used every day, and space is used every day by all of us, right? So the most obvious one is weather reports. This is a photo from a few years ago. It's got 3 cyclones hovering over Australia. So it's great for the people that had this information that this was coming. Could you imagine the old days when we didn't have satellites to tell us about what's happening with the weather? This is probably the most important one. All our financial transactions rely on really accurate timing, and we get that timing from GPS satellites. So if we didn't have those, for example, imagine if they went down, you wouldn't be able to do your online shopping, you wouldn't be able to go and just shop at the shop. So space is everywhere. We're using it every day without necessarily thinking about it. There's a thing called precision agriculture where you can use the information from GPS satellites to work out exactly how your tractor traverses the farm and basically take that human element out of it and improve efficiency of how you do your farming. Also, you can take images of the farms and look at the health of plants, etc. So, space has a big application to agriculture, and given that there's like 7 billion of us in the world today, and we need to feed everyone, being really good at agriculture is an important thing. Now, I had the opportunity to go to the International Space University. I know it sounds made up, but it's not. It's Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon. He's our chancellor, or he's the chancellor, and so. While I was there, I got exposed to a whole range of areas relating to space, and I wanted to share a bit of that with you. And it was kind of eye-opening for me as well. Even though I like space, there was a lot that I didn't know about it back then as to where you could work. So science and exploration, right? So space science, space exploration. This is the Square Kilometre Array, which is being built here in WA, up near Geraldton. And this is a radio telescope, so it'll listen for radio signals from space. But it will be receiving terabytes of data per second. So we need some really smart technology people to work out how to process all that information. It's like watching, it's like watching every single channel of every single show on Netflix at once. How do you pick out that right thing that you're looking for? Talked a little bit about environment earlier on. So you can use space technologies to monitor your environment, to make sure that you can manage your water resources, for example, or your food resources. Life sciences. So to live in space, there are challenges. When you're weightless, you lose bone mass, right? Your bones shrink, your eyesight changes, a whole range of things that happen. You're exposed to radiation. Radiation is bad, right? So, I mean, we get UV light here, so you've got to be careful about getting burnt and skin cancer. But up there's a whole range of other types of radiation that aren't blocked by the atmosphere, and you're up there alone. So, from a psychological aspect, there's a different mindset there. Can you imagine you're on? I don't know if you've watched that movie, The Martian. Yeah. The guy's the guy's there by himself, right? You can imagine what's playing on his mind. So. Medicine, nuclear research with regards to radiation, psychology, these are all things that you can get into and have an impact on space. Probably things you wouldn't have considered before, but it's a whole range of things that you can do. If you're interested in public service, space policies is a big thing, right? The nation needs to have a space policy for example, to foster STEM learning and to make a smarter workforce, a smarter nation. So if you're in wanting to get into government, to public service, there are aspects of space that you can work on there. It's a United Nations symbol, so there's a whole bunch of treaties, international treaties that govern how we use space. So it turns out we need space lawyers, right? It's with so many more people accessing space today, there's there's a whole bunch of legal things that we need to be aware of. So, you know, from one spaceship crashing into another to mining asteroids, who owns that mineral, you know, those minerals that you find, a whole range of things. So you wouldn't have thought about it, but law has a big part to play in space. By 2040, or the late 2040s, it's going to be worth $3 trillion. So why is that important? It means that there's an actual market there, which means there are going to be jobs there. STEM, I think, is the way of the future. It's going to secure your jobs and make sure you're not replaced by a robot. And space, there's a lot of things you can do at space with relation to technology. That I get to tell people that I build spaceships, and that I get to tell people that I work in space. It's exciting because I've always been interested in space, and it's now, the technology is such that it's accessible to the ordinary person like myself. So I guess I'm living out my childhood dreams. So with space, we rely on technology to do the things that we need to do in space, whether that's building a small satellite like we're doing, or whether it's looking at an image that's taken from space and analysing that to find more information about, say, for example, crop health. So all of those things require, I guess, your STEM skills, your science and technology, engineering and mathematics. But what's interesting about space is, on top of that, there's a whole range of other areas that you can work in. For example, you can be a space lawyer. You can advise the government on space policy. You could be a space farmer. So it's really exciting that there's all these things you can do. And by having a good, I guess, foundation of STEM, it can help you to do all of that. Yeah, so I guess with space, with the presentation I gave, there's a whole range of areas that you can work in. If we take, for example, say space law, you'd think that law has nothing to do with technology or science or space. But if you're going to be working in that industry, you need to understand it. So if you can combine, say, law with, say, a science, when you graduate from university, you'll have that good foundation to create really great law with the understanding of that science or that technology behind it.